MLB.com's Sarah Langs, if the Braves can win Wednesday night's game versus Washington, they will become only the fourth team in Major League Baseball history to start a season at least 0-7, then proceed to move above 500, joining the 45 Red Sox, 80 Braves, 83 Astros, and the 08 Tigers. Welcome to episode 195 of ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Joining me this evening is our fabulous producer, Wayne Ridenauer, in wonderful Memphis, Tennessee, and my co-host for the evening, Larry Gardner, your PA voice of the Rome Emperors. You can catch us all at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, Apple and Spotify. If you like the content, please give us a thumbs up, a subscribe on YouTube, and a review on Apple or Spotify. Personal X's at JJ Get You One for myself, at RWY Jr. for Wayne, at LG4Real though for Larry Garner, and at Corder Todd for TC Todd Corder, who is umpiring some baseball in the Woodstock area. What's on tap for today's show? Dave Cohen joins us for the DC report. We go around the horn in Major League Baseball and some NBA playoffs in our final thoughts.
They treat their baseball program like it's a double-A minor league program, because if you live in and around anywhere around Lafayette, Louisiana, unless you're willing to go to New Orleans, which New Orleans doesn't have minor league baseball anymore because I think the Baby Cakes moved. That was the last team that was there, the Baby Cakes. Louisiana is your only option to see what we will call mid to mid-high level college athletics. Unless you're willing to drive to Baton Rouge or drive to New Orleans, if you live in and around Lafayette, the Ragin' Cajuns are option number 1 and number 2. There is no other option other than high school athletics. So baseball in Lafayette, Louisiana is probably no different than what Larry experiences in Rome watching minor league baseball. That is how Louisiana treats it. We do not and have historically not treated it that way. And our situation is different. Up until they moved to Truist Park, Georgia State baseball played 15 minutes from Turner Field and the Atlanta Braves. I mean, we live in totally different worlds athletically with what we're challenged by and what they're challenged by. I mean, you look around the SunBelt, other than Norfolk, Virginia, and Mobile, Alabama, every other school like Monroe, Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana, Boone, North Carolina, Statesboro, Georgia, Troy, Alabama, it's all small markets. And then you come to Atlanta, and it's the 7th market in the country with 4 pro teams, Georgia Tech, National Hockey League on its way back at some point, minor league hockey up in Gwinnett, AAA baseball up 85. I mean, it's throw in Kennesaw State now playing in Conference USA. It is a saturated sports market, and that's a challenge that Georgia State faces that no other Sunbelt school faces. And I'm not complaining. I'm just telling it like it is. It is what it is.
It's the truth. You're spitting facts. Larry, you got anything else? If not, I'm going to talk one more baseball question, but this one's MLB related. If you got one, go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, so you talked about Coach Stromdahl and some of the challenges that he's been able to do, and you were talking about some of the information you were able to gather through the interview. What is his mindset coming into the tail end of this season, and what is his outlook on the offseason and what he expects to going into the 26 campaign?
Well, some of what he told me is not to be repeated on broadcasts. Most of it is, from a language standpoint, couldn't be repeated on the ATL Prime Sports podcast. That's for Brad and me to keep. But anyway, I say that in jest. Brad's great.
Yes, that's funny.
His goal at the beginning of every season, because right before the season starts, he and I do a session on the Panther Insider podcast. His goal is to always win 35 ball games. Now, in the last couple of 3 years, he's not been able to do that. But they did have a run there where they were winning 30 or 31. But you look right now, Coastal's won 41, Southern Miss has won 38, Troy's won 37. Brad feels that if he could get to 35 and then make a little run in the SunBelt tournament, what are the chances of an at-large? I don't know. I think it boils down to the strength of schedule. We played 4 games this year against Power Fours. We lost to Georgia twice. We lost at Georgia Tech in a close game and lost a close game at the University of South Carolina. You know, I think from Georgia State's standpoint, if you're going to even utter the term at-large, you better have a couple of 3 wins over Power 4 programs, whether it's an ACC, an SEC, a Big 10, a Big 12, whoever you can get to come down here and play you, or if it's somebody you play in a tournament. Larry, the goal is to get to 35 wins every year. It is to finish in the top 5, stay out of the bottom 4 so you're not playing. You don't want to finish 11, 12, 13, no, 7, 8, 9, 10. You do not want to finish 7, 8, 9, 10 like we did last year. It's a single elimination, 1 game on Tuesday to get into the double elimination portion of the bracket. So 35 wins, finish in the top 6, so you don't have to play that first round game. Keep everybody healthy, and right now, as we mentioned earlier, probably goal number 1 is to get that team ERA down into the 3s. And you're running around close to 7, and that's gonna really, really make it a tough road to hoe when you're 13th in the SunBelt in team ERA.
Yeah, it's tough to win when the number 1 team, the top tier teams are 3.5 runs almost better in team ERA. Well, some big news happened in baseball. Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, names have been lifted from the MLB ban. Let's get your thoughts on that. Should they get in the Hall of Fame?
Have you ever been to the Greenville Drive game up in Greenville, South Carolina?
I have not gotten there yet. I've heard they're really fun to go to.
I asked that, Larry, behind the stadium. Have you been to or seen Joe Jackson's house?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, Joe Jackson lived out the remainder of his years in South Carolina and ran a liquor store.
Yeah, I heard. Mm-hmm.
You know, I think both should be in. I have no problem putting on their plaque their story. You know, baseball fans are not uneducated, unknowing people. They know why Pete Rose has been banned from baseball. They know why Shoeless Joe Jackson has been banned from baseball. So tell the story. You know, I'm a little vindictive. If I was Pete Rose, and listen, Pete signed the agreement. You know, he signed off on that lifetime ban when you go back to that time period. But if I was him, I would request that every item that I owned or was mine be removed from the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. If I'm not going to be in the Hall of Fame,
you're not going to be in.
Which is decided by the Hall of Fame and the baseball writers. It's not decided by Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, correct. Larry knows this, Major League Baseball says you're eligible or you're not. It doesn't. Major League Baseball doesn't say you're not going in the Hall of Fame. That's the Hall of Fame and the BBWA, the Baseball Writers Association of America. But in the meantime, all these years, if I had been Pete Rose, I would have nicely requested that all artifacts and items from anything I had done in baseball be removed, and if they were his originally, something that he donated to the Hall of Fame back during his career when certain milestones happened, I would have requested those items to be returned and not be displayed, and he could display them. He could display them elsewhere. You want to know another cool thing about Pete Rose? And I learned this, or I learned more about it when I was doing interviews for my book, and I interviewed Art Shamsky, who ended up playing in the New York Mets organization and was on that '69 Miracle Mets team. But Shamsky came up in the Cincinnati Reds organization, and in 1962, Shamsky and Pete Rose played for the Macon Peaches down in Macon, Georgia. And there's some really cool photos of Rose, as a player in Macon in '62.
That's pretty cool.
Which is before my time. I wasn't born until June of 1963. But Rose came through Macon, Georgia, in the Reds farm system on his way up to Cincinnati. And it's, not often told that Rose played in Macon, but it's pretty cool to go and look at some of those photos of him as a Macon Peach. I like historical facts like that are kind of little known. And I don't know, without researching it, I don't know if he played at Luther Williams Field back in those days. I don't know if you've been to Luther Williams Field. It's the old historic ballpark that's just outside of downtown Macon. But he came through Macon in 1962 on his way up to Cincinnati.
That's really cool. Yeah, I held up the Eight Men Out book.
Yeah, good book. I've read
Shoeless Joe, and that's where I learned he ran a liquor store, and he actually played on that field a little bit just for some fun pickup baseball games. And they said, "Why don't you go back?" And he's like, "They won't let me." It's just a really cool portion of that book. If you haven't picked up a copy, Eight Man Out, really, really good story about the 1919 World Series and the Black Sox.
There's also some question, and I put that in quotations, about did Shoeless Joe Jackson know what he was getting into when he got into what he got into?
That's a really good question.
If you look at his numbers in the World Series in 1919, and I don't have them right in front of me, his numbers were great.
They were awesome. They were awesome. And that's when they played 9 games.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, his numbers were unbelievable. I mean, he's one of the best hitters in baseball history. And I've been going through my old baseball card collection and getting them kind of together, seeing Pete Rose and seeing some of these Hank Aaron cards. And it's just, bringing back memories. But that book, it really outlined how good of a player Shoeless Joe Jackson was. And that book specifically says it's probably the best baseball player you might ever see. So I think they should both be in regardless. And my thing is, and we'll get into it or get our own opinions here later in the show, but in 2019, that's when that should have happened. When FanDuel and Major League Baseball partnered, that should have gone out the window. And like you said, Shoeless Joe, go read the book, but the man wasn't the smartest tool in the box, the sharpest tool in the shed. And I think some big time bookies, as they called them back then, and some big time attorneys got in his ear and said they could all make money off of it. So come up with your own opinion, but I do think Shoeless Joe Jackson is not as guilty as Pete Rose was. So I think he should get in first, and then Pete Rose, and then the steroid users need to go in as well with all this. That's my final thought on that.
Let him in and tell the story.
Yeah.
Tell the story.
That's what the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is there to tell the story. So let him in, tell the story.
Yeah.
And I think that was Tim Kirkshin that said that as well. Put their story on their plaque. I like that as well, Dave. That's a very, very, very good point. Well, Dave, we won't keep you much longer. Thanks for coming on. You can catch Dave on X at GA State Voice. And we'll catch you soon, Dave. Thanks for coming on tonight, man.
All right. Appreciate you having me. Always good to come on and talk with you guys. We'll talk again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, football, baseball, and, of course, men's basketball. We'll catch you next time, Dave. Go Panthers.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, as always. We'll go from Dave Cohen to Major League Baseball. The Braves finally got to 500. Will they move past it for the remainder of the season? Larry, we'll start out with you, man. I think we're going to have a pretty good conversation on this one. What's your thoughts?
I think it was Wayne that said this when we were doing our MLB outlooks, our picks, and prognosis for the season, and he always, and I'll give it to you, Wayne. I'm gonna give you props.
Yeah.
He was the first to say when they went through the 0-7 streak, he said if they can ever get to 500 by the time Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuña gets back, they're going to be some team to watch out for. And I've said it in agreement to him to the whole point. For them to have had the start that they had, and for them to be at 500, and they haven't had Strider all year, and they haven't had Ronald Acuña all year, and the heavy hitters who need to be heavy hitters haven't really hit the way that they need to hit all year long, I think a tsunami is coming. And I think Ronald's appearance back in the leadoff spot is going to be the elixir that cures all that ails them. You know, pitching has been consistent. You know, there's been a couple of people that we've come to expect to do things that we wanted them to do and haven't. You know, the injury bug has hit them all the time, but people just continuously coming and stepping up and performing. And they've got to get Drake Baldwin in the lineup. So he's got to be the everyday DH or whatnot, but they've got to get him in there. His bat's just been too remarkable so far. I got so many different things because win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose has kind of been what their last couple of weeks have been.
And one-run games in some of those too.
You know, exactly. So, and to see them continuously fighting, to hear the masses on Twitter continue to call for Brian Snitker's head. And to me, I think I was the first to say it, but he should have won Manager of the Year last year. And if he pulls this off and they make a wild card berth this year, heck, if they even win the division this year and he's not Manager of the Year, people, they need to just throw the whole award away. They really, really do. You know, because with everything that's going on, with all the injuries, with all that happened to shuffle pieces from Gwinnett back to Atlanta, and for him to literally be like a chef that's having to cook a meal every day for the fans of Atlanta, for all of baseball, to see what he has been able to do with all of his all-star caliber people playing below their potential, I have nothing but good things to say. And, you know, and you can be critical about a lot of different things because they have fallen short in a lot of areas that they should be doing well in. But I choose to look at the glass half full in this because you went almost 2 solid weeks without winning a baseball game, and yet you're at 500 now. So obviously they're doing a whole lot better than they started, and they're doing it without an MVP caliber player in the lineup. So once those happen, all the injuries kind of work themselves out. They get healthy. I'm telling you right now, you can bank it. Wayne said it first. I'm going to give him the credit, but you can bank it right now, May 14th, 2025. I'm telling you right now, a healthy Atlanta Braves team is making the playoffs.
All right.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I never gave up on them. I picked them to win the division. Simply, Vegas isn't usually wrong. I mean, they were second to highest odds to win the World Series. I think it also helps. You mentioned they get those 2 big names back. Strider had a simulated game today, 60 pitches, pitched pretty well. According to Rick Kranitz, commanded all 5 of his pitchers pretty well. Acuña will have his first rehab start in Gwinnett Thursday night. As we all know, he homered in his first game back in a Florida complex league in Northport, Florida there. But again, back to Strider. He commanded his pitches. He looked good fielding the ball, throwing to first, throwing to second, working on getting the lead runner. The velocity was a little low, but Brian Snitker wasn't too worried about it in the press conference he had on Spencer Strider. Said, it's his first start back. He's not 100% health yet. You got to get the reps and get back into the rotation. And he thinks that velocity will build back up over a period of a week or two. And again, simulated game. Juices aren't flowing. competitive edge is much more controlled, which the Atlanta Braves wanted. That's why they didn't give him a rehab assignment just yet. They wanted to test that hamstring out. It wouldn't surprise me if you see Strider get to 70 or 80 pitches in his next simulated game. Go ahead and maybe make 1 or 2 Gwinnett starts, or maybe you see him in Rome, whichever's home that weekend, maybe Columbus. So look out in the near future for Strider coming to a minor league program near you, Georgia fans. But yeah, I think everything looks poised and ready. What I really like to see right now, Larry, is I love the fact that Ozuna and Olsen, though they're in a little slump, they're getting on base. Ozuna leads Major League Baseball in base on balls at 29 going into the Wednesday night's game. And again, Olsen's not very far behind him. What is he, tied 6th with like 30, with like 29 or something like that, base on balls? Yeah, so Olsen's got 29. Ozuna led the MLB with 35. The at-bats are there, so I think Olsen will get back. He's a streaky hitter. You know, he can carry an offense for a long period of time. I think that'll be fine. But a real question to ask you, Larry, should Atlanta consider trading Sean Murphy for a frontline pitcher with what you've seen from Drake Baldwin?
The answer to that question for me at this point in time is no. And the only reason being is because last year you had Drake Baldwin in the wings at Gwinnett still being able to do what he was able to do, but you had veteran leadership in Travis d'Arnaud being on that team. If you trade him, then now you're in a pickle again all over, because now who is the veteran leader that is able to kind of get everybody under control with your pitching staff, even though he's a remarkable at bat? It's literally the whole William Contreras saga all over again, just with a different name. He's just named Drake Baldwin. So I would love another frontline starter and another deep reliever in the Atlanta pitching staff rotation. And I think, and for those of you who don't know, you know, I think there are a couple of arms in the minors that are on the verge of being ready to be where they need to be able to fill those roles. So I think AA is choosing patience over a knee-jerk reaction. And until his track record proves otherwise, we have to keep our faith in what AA has been able to do, because he has been able to squeeze juice out of lemons that people have thrown out to the side of the road a long, long time ago. He's been able to pick from his minor league system and get pitchers to be able to fill needs. They ain't always going to be perfect, because most of the time you got to remember these are 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids who are getting their first really taste of big league action. So right now, I would say no. If by the end of July, Drake is still hitting the way he's been hitting to start the season, and Sean is struggling, and you need another frontline starter, and you're knocking on the door there with New York and Philly, then you may need to reevaluate the situation, because he's a valuable piece. And with his contract being where it is, it's probably a very easily tradable piece. So as of going into Memorial Day, which is one of my first, stop gaps of the season, where you at Memorial Day, where you at the trade deadline, where you at in the dog days of summer, usually about the 3rd or 4th week of August, and then where you at going into October. Right now, if you're at 500 with the start that you've got here at Memorial Day, then you're okay. Now, if something teeter-totters when we get ready to hit the All-Star break into the trade deadline, then let's reevaluate it. But as of right now, I say no. Because I think having him there as a valuable pinch hitter off the bench when you need some electric, kind of like what Jock Peterson was in the World Series run with the Braves, I think that helps you right now when some of your main guys are off.
Yeah, look, I don't want to jump the gun either. I'm not going to say trade him yet, but let me tell you what. With 70 at-bats from Drake Baldwin, 21 less at-bats than Murphy, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, and 938 on base plus slugging. Small sample size, but the ABs I've seen, Larry, you've seen them too. They look really good. And you've seen this guy personally. Yeah, I think you got a picture with Drake Baldwin earlier this year, didn't you? But,
I've got several of Drake.
It was look, he threw his first runner out at second base, so he's looking good behind the plate. Already has a walk-off hit under his belt in his rookie season. So the clutch gene has already showed. If you get this guy some more at bats and he continues to do what he's doing, you may have to make a change at the very least. You might have to start Drake Baldwin every single night, because if a guy is ready, a guy is ready. And the Braves have had a history in the last, 6 years, 7 years now? That's 25. We've had 2 Rookie of the Years, including Ronald Acuña and Michael Harris Jr., and really it was a 1-2 punch for Michael Harris and Spencer Strider in 23. So either way, you were getting a Rookie of the Year award. So the Braves have had luck with this stuff. And I think the question has to be asked, and maybe you got to start Drake Baldwin a little bit more often. Maybe it's 2 games here, 3 games for Murphy there, but something's got to give, because if Baldwin's giving you these great at-bats, throwing runners out, commanding the pitching staff, staying healthy, and again, competitive at-bats throughout, you might have to give him the nod, but Murphy does have the better power stick right now, the 7 home runs, 17 RBIs. But again, I just find that interesting. The Braves have had very good luck with call-ups. They called this guy up with Sean Murphy's injury, and here we are again, knocking at the door, asking the same question. Michael Harris made the same argument. He implemented himself into center field, and the rest has been history. So I think it's a good question to ask, and Brian Snicker may have to start answering that question here pretty shortly. As any final thoughts on the Braves? I think we all agree the turnaround is complete. It's just a matter of how far they get now.
Yeah, well, I wish Texas would turn it around, but the AL West is pretty tough right now. I mean, they're sitting in 4th place, a game and a half back, and that's with a 4-game win streak. So, the AL West is just pretty tight right now.
It's really tight. Everybody's within 6 games. 4 out of the 5 teams in that division above 500. Seattle's holding it down. Munoz is having a great season closing. Rodriguez out there. Bryce Miller just went on the IL, but they got a pretty good young staff up there in Seattle. The Athletics, surprisingly, 2 games over 500 and in 2nd place. AL West, arguably the toughest division in baseball right now in terms of everybody as close as they are. Technically, it is. Yeah. In terms of everybody being within 6 games, and no other division can claim that. So, Wayne, you're right there. You just mentioned it, game and a half back. Pretty good at home, 14-8. Got to get a little better on the road. The Braves have the same problem. They only have 7 wins on the road, and Texas is 1 better at 8-13. So lot left in the season. Texas is still a pretty good team, Wayne. So I'd hold your head up, because I think they'll be making a run before it's all said and done.
Well, we'll wait and see. As I always say, August will be the telltale time.
Correct. Well, we'll move from the Braves to what we talked with Dave Cohen about a little bit. We'll get our opinions on Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and the other players and managers that are now eligible to go in the Hall of Fame. I'll kick this one off. First pitch, whatever you want to say, whatever metaphor you want to use. I absolutely, they should be in. I've already said one statement back in 2019 when FanDuel and Major League Baseball merged. That's when this thing should have been dropped. When Pete Rose was alive, so he and his family could have seen him get in. But with that being said, kind of a different subject, but in the same thing, how come MLB has arguably its 2 most iconic hitters not in the Hall of Fame? That's Bonds and Rose. So again, I think if Rose gets in, Shoeless first, because he was an amazing player. Pete Rose, and then the steroid era players got to get in. You got to get Roger in there. You got to get Bonds in there. You got to get Andy Pettitte in there. I think Mark McGwire deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. These guys deserve to be in, and I hope that this is the first step. Larry, your thoughts on this, then we'll get Wayne's.
No, I'm kind of like what Dave said, because I already had it wrote down in my show notes. The whole point of the Hall of Fame isn't just to tell your statistical prowess of your career, but it's a place to share the history of the game of baseball. And you cannot tell the history of baseball without mentioning Pete Rose. You just can't. And to Dave's point, if I'm going to have a lifetime ban, then everything associated with me that contributed to the game should also be banned and removed.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to tell me that Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa cannot be in the Hall of Fame, then both of their 70 home run balls should take out the bat. They should take them out. You should take out the flag that Sammy Sosa had that he ran around the stadium with the day after the 9/11 came down and took pads. You need to rip that out the thing too. Everything that's associated with these guys needs to be taken out, because the problem is you cannot have a double standard. You want to say that they contributed to the game, but then you trying to keep your image and the shield and the brand clear. Unfortunately, I hate to tell you this, but the brand has been tarnished since the 1900s, and probably if we had the data to prove it, it's probably been tarnished since the late 1800s. So
Really?
That being the case, you got to tell the story of the game. Got to. You just got to. And ironically, how his hitting streak came to an end in Atlanta. You know, people may remember that, may not remember that, but he was the closest that we've had in the modern era to getting close to Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak. You can't tell that story. You got to take that out too. So my whole purpose of any Hall of Fame, no matter what the sport is, don't just talk about the accolades and the stats that the player accumulated over their career, but tell the story on how not only did they impact the game, how was the game changed by their presence, but how would the game be different had they not played the game of baseball, football, basketball, hockey, racing. It doesn't matter what it is. So to me, all of those who qualify, regardless of what they did, regardless of how they got it, they should be in the game. They should be in the Hall of Fame. That's my thoughts.
Well said. Well said, Larry. I agree 100%. I love what Dave said. Got my juices flowing on that. I am a big Pete Rose supporter. The guy played, Charlie Hustle. The guy ended a career in an all-star game, and it's just, you don't see players play it that hard anymore. Talk about running through first base on everything. Now that YouTube's available, I've watched so many Pete Rose games, and that Big Red Machine was just so fun to watch. And I just think one mistake shouldn't cost you a legendary status in the Hall of Fame. Wayne, your thoughts on this? Should they be in? Should they not be in? Go.
Well, I think they should be in just because of, their status as baseball players overall. I just hope that the Baseball Hall of Fame doesn't start doing like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame does and start letting people in that didn't have anything to do with baseball. Because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's got too much non-rock and roll. So just as long as the Baseball Hall of Fame's kept baseball and they don't start putting in shot put people and distance runners and marathon winners and all that, then it should be all right.
Just in, Deion Sanders admitted to the Hall of Fame for his Falcons career.
Well, he played some baseball, did he?
No, he did.
Or tried to.
For his Falcons tenure as Dallas Cat, we're putting him in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's hilarious. We'll move from that to our final thoughts. I got a little NBA playoffs action, just some kind of thoughts from around the league. Wow, unfortunately, Tatum ruptured his Achilles. That series is looking like it's going to round out right now. I actually go back, give a score update in that one. But unfortunate for the Celtics, they are 3-1. They're playing in Game 5 currently right as we speak. My number 1 versus number 1 championship pick, that got tossed real quick. Pacers, gentlemen, swept the Cavs. Indy awaits the winner of that series, the Celtics and the Knicks. Over in the West, upset Central over there. Both conference final spots are open. Golden State does trail the Minnesota Timberwolves 3-1, Game 5 Short tips off shortly Wednesday night here on TNT. While the Nuggets and Thunder, they're in a 3-2 battle. Game 6 Thursday night, ESPN 8:30. Been a pretty interesting NBA playoffs, but man, lots of big leads blown and lots of blowouts in games. Larry, your thoughts on the NBA playoffs so far, man?
Yeah, the story for the NBA playoffs really has been injuries, and it continues to rear its ugly head. You look at Steph going down, you look at Jason Tatum going down, and those are big names. Anthony Edwards went down for a little bit, but luckily he was able to bounce back. Injury after injury after injury is made this postseason basically what it is. And to look at them, and I won't go through each series individually, but to me, the best series for your money right now is still OKC and Denver. And it's all because of Russell Westbrook, man. And people, you either love him or you hate him, but the guy plays like his hair is on fire every time he steps on the court. They can call him a coach killer if they want to, because Mike Malone got fired because they think he got fired because of him. But at the end of the day, here's some stats. Jokic, the Joker, is still my MVP, even over SGA, because if you take SGA off of OKC, they still got 2 All-Stars. If you take Jokic off of Denver, none, period. And I'm not even going to talk about recency bias. He's knocking on the door of being in the conversation of one of the greatest of all time. And not because the numbers he puts up, but he does it effortlessly. And he doesn't seek the spotlight. Like, dude literally will go put up a 30-point, 20 rebound, 20 assist, triple-double, and go drink a gallon of beer and go ride on a horse. That's not the Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, social media generation that everybody wants to see. He is the complete antithesis of that. He is a businessman special. And to watch him play basketball is an art form. That said, it's going to be very interesting to see if things keep going the way that they're going. With the Knicks and the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, with one of them having a chance to make the NBA Finals, God, please don't let it be the Knicks. Western Conference side, everybody's trying to promote Anthony Edwards into being the face of the league. Well, if it keeps going that way, Minnesota, Denver, Minnesota did make the Western Conference Finals last year. So is it Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves' time to shine? A lot of questions still left to be answered, but it's been to me, it's been the most entertaining NBA playoffs probably since the Atlanta Hawks Eastern Conference Finals run in 21. And that's saying a lot, because usually by this time, I'm over it. I'm already tuned into the draft lottery, which took place a couple of days ago, maybe even yesterday or the day before. For those who don't know, the Hawks got the 13th pick, so they're in there trying to do some things with it again. But overall, this has been a very entertaining NBA playoffs to me.
Any final thoughts, Larry, or just?
Well, final thought wise, I'm just excited about what the playoffs are going to do. I hate it for Steph, because I believe Houston gave Steph the motivation that he needed to try to go get another ring. I hate it for him and the Warriors, because I do believe at full strength they could give Minnesota problems. So I hate that happened that way. I hate it for Jason Tatum, even though I absolutely detest with every fiber of my being anything Celtics related. But I hate that happened to him, because that's essentially going to make him miss almost the entirety of next season for Boston. Can Jaylen Brown step up and carry him on his own? We don't know. The game's happening right now as we speak, and it doesn't look good for the Celtics. So I just hate the injuries have played a bigger spotlight on this playoff series than anything else. And, one of the key components of any sport is being healthy. So if you can stay healthy and go through the gauntlet and you get to raise up to Larry O'Brien, I just tip my hat to you. So, but very entertaining, to say the least, about this NBA playoffs this season.
Very entertaining and very fun to watch. And piggybacking your point, looks like the 8 minutes left. Celtics are up 21, so it looks like they're going to force a game 6. Wayne, finish this out, man. Your final thought for the night.
Well, the final thought, I at the beginning of the season, I did pick Memphis and the Celtics to be in the finals for NBA. So it's looking like half my dream is only hanging on by a thread. But the other one is the NHL playoffs. And it looks like Toronto is having trouble with Florida because they're losing right now at home 4-0. And that's a pretty big whomping in hockey.
Yeah, especially playoff hockey. My Blues got eliminated. My secondary team, the Avs, since I lived in Colorado, eliminated. So hockey has been eliminated from my vocabulary the last couple of weeks. But yeah, guys, it's been a fun show. Larry, thanks for joining us. Wayne, as always, thanks for doing what you do behind the boards, man. And you can catch us all again at ATL Prime Sports. If you like the content, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and you can catch Larry at the Rome Emperors game. You can catch Wayne at RWY Jr. on X doing his thing. You can catch me at JJ Get You One, Todd at Corder Todd. That's it, man. For everybody here at ATL Prime Sports, get you one. We'll see you next week.